Welcome everyone. My name is Melissa Zasengwe. Before we start this event, I would just like to say we will be sharing the recordings in English, Spanish, and Portuguese, as well as French. And the slides that are presented in this webinar will also be shared. You have access to the guide and ratings that are launched today as well. Thank you. Please note that the event is in collaboration with our partner, the International Republican Institute. The event is also being live streamed by the Internet Society on 3 channels and YouTube. Thank you. And for our agenda, it's full packed. Today we've got the digital participation platforms, the guide, ratings, how to use the guide, next steps, as well as a short Q&A. Yeah, we've got quite a full house today of speakers. We have an amazing range of speakers that have helped put this guide and ratings together. We've got myself, Melissa Zasengwe. We've got Charlie Ngonyu. We've got Kacha Petrikiv, Kelly McBride, Stefan Jube, Matt Stimpek, and Utpul Raj Misra. Thank you. Very exciting stuff. But before I start and get into all of this, I will just hand it over to Josh Lena from People Powered.
Great, thank you, Melissa, and thank you everyone for joining. And just a reminder that there is interpretation available for this event. You can select the interpretation function at the bottom of your screen in English, Spanish, and French. So please do that if you would like interpretation. So we're really excited to have you at the event today. I'm Josh Lerner, Executive Director of People Powered, based in New York. We're a global hub for participatory democracy. And so why participatory democracy? Because we know that elections alone don't deliver the democracy that people want and need. People really want more power. Next slide. And that's our mission, to expand people's power to make government decisions by supporting organizations and governments that are building participatory democracy around the world. So we're a people-powered organization building people-powered governments. Next slide. And that means 2 main things that we do. First is we build pathways for policy change. So we create communications, resources like the one that we're sharing today, training and mentorship, all to lead governments and to accompany governments down pathways towards implementing more participatory policies and programs. Next. And the second thing is that we bring together a global community of practice to do more together than we can separately. And this project is a perfect example of that. So this was actually voted as a top priority by our members. They decided to allocate funding to this resource. They did research on it. And now we're launching the Digital Participation Platforms Guide and Ratings in partnership. And this is really how we work and how we'd like to work with you. So if you'd like to be part of this global community, please let us know and we'd be glad to talk more. And I'll pass it back to Melissa.
Thank you, Josh. Just before we start the event, we would like to just warm up everyone. We have an icebreaker question, just to get into everything. Next slide, please. So the question is, what challenges have you faced when engaging people online? And you can respond to this question in the chat. Please bring all the questions that you have. But first, let's start with the answers to this question. Thank you. So the question is, what challenges have you faced when engaging people online? The digital gape, trying to replicate in-room connections, interesting. Establishing trust. We have lots of questions. Anyway, keep them coming. But for now, I'm going to hand it over to Kelly, who's going to introduce the topic for today's event. What are digital participation platforms and what is our guide in this context? Kelly?
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Melissa. So my name is Kelly McBride. Hello from Edinburgh in Scotland, and I lead on deliberative democracy at an organisation called TPX Impact. So I've worked with governments, organisations and communities in different roles for a number of years to design, facilitate and support participation. Digital has been a key part of that work, as you can imagine, particularly in recent years, where I've explored how we can use digital tools in participatory and deliberative democracy, supported the uptake of digital tools for participatory budgeting, and tested how we can use digital tools in processes like citizens' assemblies, for example. In that time, I, like many in the tech review group that are on this call today, and no doubt others that are joining us today, have learned a lot of lessons. But I've also seen people successfully embrace and adopt new ways of working with digital tools, sometimes with a little bit of guidance just to get going. And some of the challenges that I've just seen some of you posting in the chat there are very, very familiar to many of us, I'm sure. I think it's a really exciting time, though, for digital participation, and there's lots and lots of opportunity. A large number of comprehensive digital participation platforms have emerged to support the engagement of people at all types and stages of participatory process. Now, of course, there are challenges, as you've noted, and there always will be in participation work. So I think it's worth reflecting for a moment on some of the benefits, which may include the ability to involve more people in our work, to share information freely, to build trust, to work in the open, and ultimately to get the diverse input that we need to inform better policy making. And that's to name just a few benefits. Next slide, please. So we know from our work as an international group of practitioners that people are looking for guidance and support as they continue to explore how digital can enable more participatory and deliberative democracy. But we also know that the range of options and choices can be quite overwhelming sometimes, and that quality of online participation can vary quite widely. It's difficult sometimes to find accessible, relevant, and practical guidance for how to select and use online participation tools. And it's quite hard sometimes to figure out whether the good things that we're hearing in sales pitches really translates into meaning that something is the best tool for the process that we want to facilitate when we consider it in our own working contexts. So with that in mind, people-powered members flagged the need for a resource to help people to get started with digital participation platforms, as you heard from Josh. And it was a top priority for the network. And that is essentially how the idea for this guide was born. So we wrestled with different ways to present this, and things will no doubt evolve, but we've tried to create a guide that works in different global contexts. The guide aims to help you to understand how to review different tools, the questions you might need to ask yourself, and it provides some tips to get you started. So hopefully that enables you to start from what you really want to achieve and get out of a process, rather than sometimes being limited by the functionality of a one tool that you just happen to know about. Next slide, please. So who's it for? Essentially, it's for all of you on this call. It's for anyone looking to connect people to power in their community, whether you work in government, in a civil society group, or anywhere else at all. If you're looking to connect people to power, this guide's for you. So yeah, I really hope you enjoy learning a little bit more about the guide and how it can help you throughout the event. Keep engaging in the chat. But that's all from me. Back to Melissa.
Thank you, Kelly. And next we will have Matt Stimpek, who wrote the guide, telling us how to select and use digital participation platforms. Matt?
Thanks, Melissa. So my name is Matt Stimpek, and I'm the primary author of this guide. I'm also a technologist in residence at Cornell Tech, which you can see behind me in the fall here. And to write this guide, I drew on personal experience. So curating the civic tech field guide for almost 6 years, and that's a comprehensive collection of engagement tech with almost 5,000 projects indexed. So we've used that database to research the rise and fall of various digital participation platforms around the world. The guide we're here to launch today was directly informed by recent research I led on digital participation platforms with the OECD and Civic Hall. And that research looked into which platforms support true accountability and people power. Slide, please. So we also relied on a survey shared on People Power's website, desk research, and in-depth interviews with an additional 10 organizations with deep experience using and building digital participation platforms. Slide, please. So this guide also greatly benefited from the feedback from people-powered members and advisory groups, many of you who are here today, who helped make the content more relevant, as Kelly mentioned, in a broader audience, especially looking at practitioners based outside the US and Europe, and in a variety of contexts, so like local government and civil society institutions alike. So I'd like to thank everyone who took the time to share their experiences with us, as they helped us consider all the different realities that people face when trying to choose and run a digital participation platform. So their contributions made it more about the human context of using a platform instead of just the technical features. And as you'll see, we included the technical features too. From all this research, we developed an Airtable database with comparative information on 50 different digital participation platforms that are all available for you to use. And we wrote the report to cover the full project cycle, from considering whether or not to use a participation platform to begin with, all the way through to communicating your people-powered wins with your participants and planning ahead for your platform's sustainability. Slide, please. So the wisdom that's captured here in this guide came from developers, participation hosts, and also end users. And one finding that stood out from all this research was the importance of devoting resources to community engagement and involvement, and not just software development. Slide, please. And in fact, several groups that used to develop platforms have shifted their attention to supporting communities to use existing tools to drive impact. As Colombina points out, the core of their digital engagement project was not only the platform, but all of the work around it to secure participation from the communities. And Ciudadania has worked really hard to ensure people can participate, doing things like helping people maybe who don't have email addresses when a platform requires an email address to register. You can imagine how that might leave people out. So because community engagement is the most important aspect, many sections of this guide can be applied to digital participation, no matter which platform you use. So for example, many groups successfully use mainstream chat apps and really simple web forms that aren't explicitly marketed as civic platforms, because lots of people already use those tools. And they can cover basic use cases like sharing input. So now I'll turn it over to Charlie to share some highlights. Thanks.
So, Melissa, should I go?
Yes, you can go ahead, Charlie.
Thank you. And I'm Charlie Marciangonu. I work for Afro Leadership in a Pan-African NGO using digital technologies. And I'm part of this tech review committee of People Powered. So given that we need to put people at the center of our platform, selecting a platform can be a bit challenging, especially in contexts where electricity and internet costs, or maybe internet availability is not a given. And so when selecting, we need to care about, low bandwidth areas or maybe low bandwidth prone platforms. Next. And so if we have chosen the right platform for the context and given the constraints that we face, the next constraints or next challenge might be bringing everybody aboard. And that's a key challenge, even if users or maybe citizens have, good internet, good electricity, and then even good smartphone. It might happen that the challenge of having everyone talking the language of the platform can be a problem. So we have to take care about these people that might be excluded because they are not using the languages of the platform. Even if the platform is like in Cameroon, in English, or in French, it might happen that people that speak local languages will be excluded. So there is a need to find for a hybrid way of bringing everybody aboard by using kind of intermediaries that will translate their views, their opinion, and put it and key in their opinion in the platform. Next. And then even if we have got the right platform and we have built our inclusive strategy to bring everyone on board, we might face challenges that has nothing to do with the platform or people, have to do with hackers, with the bad guys out there that would not like our platform to work, or maybe that would try to take advantage of the information that we have put in the platform. And so to make sure we make our platform not that attractive for the bad guys, it will be right to minimize the amount of private data that we collect with our platform. And also we might use magic links, just to bring more ease to those who are users of the platform. That will be because the platform needs to be user friendly, but also to make sure we can really, really secure our platform when it comes to password management. And then it's always better for individual, for a platform or for an organization. It's always key to do regular backup. Either we host our platform or maybe the platform is in a hosting service somewhere. Next. And then a disclaimer. It might happen that we don't actually need a platform in a given context. If possible, the best for me as a civic tech is using a platform because of the facilities, the ease that platform brings. But it might happen that we don't have the luxury of using a platform. So it will be best to keep in mind that the strategy is always to make sure we can bring people in, that more people are inclusively included. I will repeat myself, because the goal of all this is to make sure we leave no one behind, as the SDGs proclaims. So thank you, Melissa. I give the floor to you.
Thank you, Charlie. Just before I go to Stefan next, I just want to say the links and the slides will be shared right after the session. Thank you. And next we have Charlie, who's going to talk to us about the comparison of recommended platforms. Stefan?
Thank you. So, bonjour, Stéphane Dubé from Institut du Nouveau Monde. Based in
Morning, Stéphane Dubé of NNN, based in Monterey.
Within the organization. So before going to the ratings straight, I will just introduce you to the process that we use and not to select, but to evaluate, to do our work as a committee. First, the first thing that we had in mind is to help you to select the civic tech that better addresses your needs. Because there are plenty of civic techs out there, and we are not doing an evaluation of, and we are not testing it. I will say it just later. But the ratings are showing you different platforms, so you can select few ones, and you can go further to test the platform to be sure that your needs are suited. Next, please. So how we did that? We went on websites of different providers. So we read different public available information there, and we had surveys and interviews to help us, and also a few of us within the committee had experiences with different platforms, so help us to evaluate all that. But as we made our evaluation available information, maybe it's not fully correct or fully exact. So we encourage platform developers to add more information on their website if they're feeling that there's missing data. Next, please. So as I was saying, we can compare our work maybe for different other website that maybe helping their users to by testing different application, different material. We didn't test the platforms, so I was saying that we just read the information on the website. So we are not saying that the platform is better than another one. So ranking is just looking at the different criteria that we will see just later. So just to be sure that maybe you look for the best civic tech that maybe suits your needs, I was saying. Next, please. So we focused on the most widely used platform. So there's plenty of that. Matt said that there's the website for getting all the information about platforms. So we select a few of them, and so you can have the most used. So you can have the information of what we as the committee saw and the world are used today. There's a platform everywhere, different languages. And there are less spreads. Maybe it's very good for you. So if there's anything that you can share with us for specific, maybe we'll listen to it and add it a bit further on. Next, please. So the last one is that we focus on comprehensive digital participation platforms. And these resources focus on platforms designed especially to fully support participation programs. There are many other tools that are maybe not specific for civic tech, but you can use it in the context of a participation process. So you can look for other things. Maybe there's not one platform looking suiting all your needs. So you may need different platforms to help you to get all your process of participation. Next, please. So we're getting to categories now, just as before the criteria. So to help you to find the one I was saying, so we established 3 categories. The first one we call complex, which is referring to platforms that offering different tools. So they are kind of a toolbox for helping you to have different activities or different processes within a larger process. The simple one, again, simple, are more focused process. So could be discussion, could be voting, could be questionnaire, or so they are not kind of toolbox, but more simple, more focused on one thing. And there's the specialty category, which are maybe specific for a language or a process like participatory budgeting. So that's the categories, and now we're getting to the criteria with Katia.
Thank you so much, Stefan, for the introduction. My name is Katia Petrikevich, and I'm connecting from Prague, Czech Republic. As a co-founder of Participation Factory, I oversee tracking of over 100 civic tech solutions from Czech Republic and elsewhere. And I also provide advising to communities on participation processes and suitable online tools. And today I will be guiding you through the nitty-gritty details of our ratings. And we'll start through looking into detailed descriptions of our ratings, and I'll explain to you how they worked. But before we start, I wanted to note that the Tech Review Committee decided on this criteria as the most important ones for users, meaning administrators and implementers of participatory processes. So for any civic tech developers, we do encourage you to focus on those as to improve the product performance. So the ratings are based on the 6 criteria that I listed on the slides: cost, capacity requirements, features and accessibility, ethics and transparency, and track record and reliability. Another slide, please. And as you can see from the presentation of the slide, you can see the criteria at the very top of the table. And then below, you see scores for each of the criteria below. And we'll go through the detail of it a bit later. But now let's dive right into the different criteria. And we'll start from the cost. So next slide. So the cost reflects the price range that the platforms are falling under. Of course, there are solutions that are free of charge, and it's indicated by the $1 sign. And there, of course, are some more expensive solutions. Some of them are reaching the price range of more than $20,000 per year. It's an incredibly important criteria since the price can be an accessibility barrier for some of the people to actually implement the civic tech solution. Next slide, please. Then we also looked into the capacity requirements since it can hide some additional costs. And when reviewing the capacity requirements, we basically looked into the tech expertise required for configuration and the hosting capacity required, since both of them can create extra load of work and therefore extra costs for the implementers. And also some of the civic tech solutions have tech support available, and those who do offer full service support received a higher scoring. Next slide, please. In order to fully assess all the civic tech solutions, we also looked in the list of features and functionalities that those platforms cover. The list that you should be seeing on the slides in a moment, I guess the presentation froze for a second. Yes, here it is. So the list, of course, is as comprehensive as it can be, but of course there are some gaps. But we put together a list of the most sought after functionalities from the perspective of administrators. And it includes data or proposal collection, a survey functionality, proposal drafting that would allow participants to co-create different proposals and projects, voting solutions and discussion forums, also sentiment analysis, which in effect means ability to categorize the emotional tone of a discussion, which is usually facilitated through artificial intelligence. We also looked into whether platforms have comment and sharing on social media functionality that would allow the integration between the platform and other social medias like Facebook or Twitter. We assessed whether the platform has a mapping solution to allow users and projects to be connected visually to a particular location. And of course, as I mentioned before, we put a lot of focus on how the platform helps the administrators of the process. Hence, we looked into whether there is a process planning functionality and communication with participants that is being facilitated through the civic tech solution, as well as user verification and security functionality, quantitative data analysis, and heat mapping that would allow to visualize data that represents the strength of support for a given idea. A lot of you mentioned accessibility, and that is the next criteria that we'll look into. So in order to assess how accessible the platform is, we looked into whether it is accessible in different countries. So we looked into the number of those where the platform are already being used, and also whether it allows for different languages to be presented on the platform. Also, as we've already mentioned before, and as you've indicated on the chat, it is very important to have integration between online space and in-person activities. So we did make sure to look into hybrid integration with in-person activities, giving higher score to those platforms that do have integration. And then as well, we're trying to see how accessible it is in terms of technology. So we looked into the questions of browser and technology requirements, making sure that platforms are compatible with the most used browsers or technology, and the connectivity requirements to show whether platforms are suitable for communities with some challenges, as well as degree of mobile friendliness. The next aspect that we looked into is ethics and transparency. So when evaluating the platforms, we try to see whether they are open source and whether their platform code is visible and customizable, ensuring the transparency of its functionality and how it works. We also assess their data protection policy and whether collected data is protected from leaks and outside use. And finally, we also wanted to ensure that it provides ethical space for cooperation. So we looked into content moderation as a functionality and whether this service is offered altogether. And finally, we wanted to make sure that the platforms that we assessed are reliable. So we also had a check on how long they have been available on the market and what is the number of the institutional users. Next slide, please. So we've already seen the table of how the rating is done, but just to clarify, each of the criterion score was standardized to a scale of 1 to 100, and each of the criterion was given an equal weight. So the overall score for each platform is the average of those 6 scores. You will also notice that sometimes in our table, you will have an AA not available for those data pieces that were not easily available. So we wanted to encourage the transparency of information, and we did reward the providers who were more transparent towards their potential users. Next slide, please. So for example, here you see again the table of the ratings, how it looks with all the criteria, and then in yellow highlighted is the overall score. That, as I said, is the average of all the 6 scores from all the criteria. So now let's quickly talk about the actual value of the ratings. That has been a lot of information, but there are two immediate things that you can get out of just looking at those ratings. First of all, these ratings can help you dramatically cut the costs of implementation of digital platforms by allowing you to spend less or no time on the research. As we said before, the information is quite fragmented or not easily accessible. So having those ratings already helps you a lot by just providing you with this insights. Also, a lot of the times we get stuck on the price range, and just having more options and a bigger menu of pricing options can help you better understand what are the choices that you have. And finally, as I mentioned before, we did look into additional capacity requirements. So the ratings can help you uncover hidden costs and save you the money in the long run. In addition to this, we believe that this rating can help you enhance your participation processes through better understanding of what is possible. By, for example, just seeing a list of functionalities. Unfortunately, we don't know what we don't know until we see it. From my personal experience working with different communities, I've seen implementers being stuck with a particular idea of what online participation is, for example, voting, and trying to push it in this direction, the process that does not really fit for the solution. So just seeing a list of functionalities opens a wider horizon of participation and allows you to build a better and more suitable process. These ratings help you to understand what are the best practices in such points as accessibility, data privacy, and ethics. And of course, it provides space for learning from solutions and processes from different locations and different regions, but also from different focuses, such as PBS-specific solutions. That is all for me. So now it is back to Melissa.
Thank you, Katja. Thank you. So now we're going to move on to Utpal, who's going to talk to us about why organizations and governments need these materials and how they can use them.
Thank you, Melissa. Hello, everyone, and happy Year of the Tiger to all. This is a very auspicious day to launch our guide. My name is Utpal Mishra, and I'm the Senior Governance Specialist at International Republican Institute. IRI is a Washington, D.C. based nonprofit organization that works to promote democracy and democratic governance around the world. We work in over 100 countries across the globe and implement various programs to strengthen democratic governance. For example, ways to fight corruption, ensure the elections are free and fair, and to increase the capacities of various stakeholders that we work with. And while doing so, we work with elected representatives, national, subnational, and local governments, civil society organizations, different interest groups, women, youth, and members of the marginalized communities, and try to ensure that everyone has a seat at the table and that their voices are heard. To do so, among other things, we support and implement several civic engagement programs using various participatory approaches. Next slide. The team that in IRI that I'm part of, Center of Global Impact, also provides leadership and develops tools, guides, and resources for our stakeholders and also for global good that would help our stakeholders and others that are trying to implement reforms to solve their challenges on the ground. And when it comes to participatory approaches, we realize that most of our stakeholders have common challenges. As some of the speakers before me have stated, right? So for us, most of the countries that we work in, are at various stages of transitioning from a closed society to a democratic one. So they lack the understanding and knowledge and don't have the capacities to implement different approaches effectively, right? And then the others who are more advanced in the process are pretty confused because of the plethora of information that they need in navigating the different platforms to determine which process and tools that are the right ones for them. So what we, next slide, please. So what we wanted to do was listening to our stakeholders, we wanted to build a resource that helps solve these challenges, especially in participatory budgeting. Right? Therefore, we partnered with People Powered and using their expertise to build a resource that was independent, comprehensive, and that included systematic review of available platforms, best practices, and global lessons learned that could be used by practitioners in multiple country settings with varying degrees of capacities for implementation. And this guide and rating is one of the results of the partnership. And we hope that this will be very useful for all our stakeholders and those who want to implement participatory approaches in the ground. Moving forward, we intend to pilot this guide and rating in Gambia, Ukraine, and Ecuador, who are at different stages of implementing participatory budgeting process in next several months. We also intend to take advantage of the mentorship program that the People Powered has, and we're excited to roll it out and hope that this will help our partners on the ground and also help us to understand ways to further make this guide and rating more effective and impactful. Thank you. Back to you, Melissa.
Thank you so much. So what are the next steps? Perhaps I should start with a personal reflection. So as I mentioned before, I work for a project called the Civic Tech Innovation Network in South Africa. And we're a community of practice for African civic tech actors. So for me, putting together this guide and working with people from all over the world has been so amazing. But in fact, this guide is of great importance and relevance for Africa, especially since many African governments are now focused on finding ways to introduce and implement digital governance. And but the thing is, you will notice when you get the guide that we did not include any African platforms. And that's because Africa does not necessarily have these platforms. And these international tools that we have rated, they are not currently used that much in Africa. Maybe one or two or here and there are in use across Africa, but it's not that much. However, I think it's important to note that African civic tech initiatives have been finding creative and innovative ways to enable digital participation across many African countries. But the issue is they mostly use platforms like social media or other tools to do this type of work. And at this point, I think a lot of them are starting to consider the importance of having platforms that are dedicated to issues such as, digital participation. So we just need more guidance. We need more experience. I don't know who we need this guidance and experience from, but I think this is a starting point for most of us. So yeah, moving on. Thank you. So what are the next opportunities, or what are the opportunities available for us as people that have put this guide together? There is an opportunity for us to, improve the guide and the ratings through, these include broader public assessment of the platforms to accompany the expert assessment, direct platform testing, expanding the ratings to include other digital participation tools, developing online courses to help users learn and use the guide, and any other ideas, because I see there's a lot of chat in the chat, and everyone has been contributing since we got here. So I'm sure there's many, many ideas. Next. So yeah, in the end, we also put together some actions that we thought would be suitable for different actors. So for example, for governments and organizations, we thought they could use this guide to assess whether a digital participation platform is right for their context and what they're trying to achieve. And if it is, they can consult the guide and ratings to help them select and set up the platform. They can also sign for free mentorship if they need support. They can share feedback on the resources. Next. Funders, we also thought we should include these because they're very important. They could use this guide for digital participation platforms in their participatory grant making. support international standards, evaluation, and product development for participation technology, as well as supporting capacity building for governments and organizations to effectively use participation technology. Next. Next slide, please. Okay, I think our slides are frozen, but I think now is the chance for next. If you can go. Okay, I think I was right. So now is the time for you guys to shine. It's time for Q&A. So I think we're gonna start with some of the questions that you guys submitted via Eventbrite. And the first question is, if we can move on, next slide. Do we not have that question? Anyway, I think I've got it. What are the best tools or ways to make our work more people-driven in the next phase of the pandemic? So that's for all the speakers in the room. Stefan? I'll start picking on people.
Can you go?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in. So the question was around the best ways or tools to make work more people-driven in the next phase of the pandemic. And I thought this question was more around how we do good participation and not necessarily about recommending a particular tool, because really the answer is around how we involve people in the different processes that we're doing and ensure that they work for them and engage them. So in response to that, really what I would emphasize is the importance of a few things that we touch on in the guide around thinking about your approach, why it is that you want to engage people in the first place, what you're looking to achieve through their engagement, and whether or not actually it's worth their time getting involved, and finding something that can help you to achieve some of those goals, and thinking through your process, thinking about commitments to inclusion, accountability, and trying to look a step ahead so that when you are designing for one participation process, actually, maybe you need to think about how that process might work longer term and not jump into using one tool that won't work the next time and drain your time, energy, and resources. So given that people-driven element, I would also emphasize that it's really good to involve people in the stages of the design and the setup. So you might want to involve them right from the beginning and even co-creating some of that engagement process. Or you might want to engage people in user testing, which is something we also refer to. So, we know in relation to things like user testing, the simplest way to begin that is to identify who the people you want to engage or want to involve are, and talk to them, involve them, and the more often you do that, the better sense you get of their motivations, their challenges, the difficulties they face, and are able to think about ways that might involve them. And, for me, that is about making things more people-driven.
Thank you, Stefan.
Yeah, just two things to add to Kelly. The best way to get people in participation process online is to design a process that's specific for online participation. Don't try to translate your in-presence process to online. Often it's not working, or it's not working as you think. So design something that's specific for that. So specific is two things. There's the synchronous, so what we are doing now right now, so we can have a discussion. So think to have the information slowly and help people to familiarize with the technology, and maybe separate, having groups so we can share information again in a bigger group. That's one thing. A second thing is where you can participate, asynchronous, so it's not at the same time. So you can design a process of 2-3 weeks. So people can add information as they go. So you will, with that kind of a process, you will be able to get people that are not usually participating in online or in live participation process, because they are not feeling well to speak in public, or they are not very good in English like I am. So they don't want you to participate that much. So they will be just write down information. So and they will think while reading the information provided by others. So design your process specifically for online, and that's good for pandemic, but that's good after pandemic too, because people are not participating in online, not live in person processes all the time. So there's other person we will reach more people with online tools.
Thank you, Stefan. I think that brings us to the next question. Before I go to the other list of questions that I'm seeing pop up, how can digital participation platforms be designed to stimulate in-person collaboration and feel more human? I'm going to start with Matt.
Sure. I'm going to take the cop-out answer, which is that one really great way to stimulate people and be more human is to meet in person. And that might, if the next phase of the pandemic is endemic and that we get to be in person again, digital participation platforms can still have a role. There were a couple platforms we found that actually integrate with offline meetings and offline participation. So some platforms let people call in on the telephone and just share their opinions orally if they're not, super web savvy. And other platforms like Decidim are specifically set up so that you can have the minutes and the reports and the feedback from getting together in person. So I think that hybrid model is still going to be a powerful one going forward as soon as we can get in the same room together again.
Thank you, Matt. Anyone else want to have a go?
Charlie?
You can go ahead, Charlie.
Okay, thank you. No, just to add to what Matt just said, if we want these platforms to be human, to be more human, I think the best is for designers or maybe for those who set up platforms to meet people where they are. Because most of the time, we try to force people to our level of competency. And that's not right. It's the best way to pull them, or maybe to push them out of using those platforms. And also, I think it's just a human, it's a human gift to be able every time to learn something that is innovative, that is new, that is creative. And so we also need to give incentives to people to love digital technologies or online technologies, because we are moving towards that. More services are going online, and we see more strategies from international organizations, from partners, at least for us who are in Africa now, and who are being led to those technologies at the level of government with e-government strategies, e-government platforms. And we see clearly that if people, those who are the have-nots, as we say, if they are not called, they are not encouraged to learn those technologies, they will be excluded. And I think that's really, really my point here. So we need to make sure we use a mix of strategies, mix of tools, mix of technologies, so that we really, really bring more and more people aboard. That's the key. We won't stop innovation. We are now talking of the metaverse or virtual reality or augmented reality. We won't stop that. But we need to make sure those who are down there, that they are somewhere in the right direction. That's my view here. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. I will go ahead and look for another question. Did this study take into account youth and children perspectives? Is there a digital platform that does not lose the attention of the youth in 5 minutes? I think I can partially answer that. No, the quick answer is no, not necessarily, because this is the first of the guides that we have done, and we went with a higher level of criteria at the moment. So we didn't go into specifics of youth, children, and all of the other factors that we could have taken into. Anyone else want to go?
I'll just mention what I said in the chat. One project that we didn't include in this guide because we were focused broadly, but is worth mentioning with youth, is the Block by Block project, which uses Minecraft for participatory urban planning meetings and gatherings. and consultations. And I think what UN Habitat worked with them to establish this method. And what they found was that people who don't normally speak up and lead the conversation in in-person meetings actually had a lot of input and a lot of ideas for public space design using the Minecraft method. So that, I think, knowing the kids in my life, I think Minecraft might be one option.
Thank you. Next question, if we still have time for more questions, I'll take one or two. How these platforms integrate the use of social technologies, such as open space, Wild Cafe, etc., for dialogue and collaboration? Kasha, Kelly, anyone? Anyone else have a response to that question?
Could you just repeat it real quick, Melissa?
Okay, I will do that for you.
Thanks, thank you.
It says, how do these platforms integrate the use of social technologies such as open space, World Cafe, etc., for dialogue and collaboration?
I have a brief answer to what I think is the question.
Go ahead.
So yeah, I mean, we've looked at a broad range of tools, and some tools will enable you to do some of that kind of like social interaction through the tool. Some others might be created to enable you to meet like we're meeting now, and to build that into a different process. I mean, it really depends on the tool, but what I will absolutely say is that it is possible to do open space and World Cafe using digital tools. It has been done really successfully for a number of years. But again, people might want to probably give some concrete examples in the chat of the tools that they've used to do it. But we've even seen processes like citizens' assemblies, which I mentioned at the start, which have brought together well over 100 people for really quite deep deliberation using digital tools, and they've been able to work together, supported by people to use digital, particularly those that maybe not as confident or have access to the technology. So if you're wondering whether or not it's possible and whether or not it's been done, the answer is absolutely yes. And there are some tools that enable you to do that, but I wouldn't recommend one specific tool because there are a range, and how they integrate and embed depends on your process and what it is that you're using. So that's a very quick answer to what I think was your question.
Thank you. I think we have 1 minute or so for one last question, and I think this one is important. How can this guide also help people working in government to learn about using digital tools for participation, or to encourage their superiors or directors to at least not be afraid of trying digital tools? Anyone want to have a go at that one? Okay, I have C hands. Katja?
Yeah, I already mentioned during my presentation that, first of all, these guides provide a wealth of knowledge about the different value of what civic tech can provide to you, but it also gives you great concrete examples of the processes of different levels of simplicity or complexity that can be worked with and worked through with the help of civic tech. So it helps you, like, it opens up basically your imagination to what is possible. And same with the digital ratings that we created. Again, it provides you with the menu of different things that you can choose from, and lowers the barrier for entry and understanding of how you can even approach it, and what kind of process you can imagine that helps you facilitate a discussion with your superiors or with your colleagues who might still be in doubt whether it really fits, whether it can do what needs to be done, whether it, for example, mapping or voting, or, as Kelly was mentioning, for example, also collaborative creation of collaborative open space.
Thank you. Charlie or Matt, either of you can go.
Yes, I think the value of the guide, the great value of the guide is to provide, in a nutshell, a view of the technology that exists or the platform that exists. It's not easy. Even for us, it was not easy. Why drafting the guide to find all those solutions? And I think most of us discovered so many of those technologies, of those platforms. So I think this is a very, very great value here. And then next value is actually to look at the guide and see what are the advantages. You know, you might not know what you don't know. And that happens to many of those citizens, you know, talking of digital, of even just participation, not even digital participation. So I think the guide also gave us new knowledge about what exists. And then we know that it's possible to use digital technology. It's possible to find solutions that others have already used. And as you know, most technologies are useful in the proportion of the community that exists around them, because the community is also an opportunity to tell you, don't fear. Technology is not harmful. Yeah, and these are the benefits and these are the advantages. And I think this can help people to move toward technology. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just lastly add, local government was a big use case that we were considering when writing this guide. So we include a lot before you even get to having a digital platform. What do you need to think about in terms of your procurement rules, which I learned during the research vary wildly all over the world. Also, what kind of team do you need? And that might be one person playing lots of roles in a small local government, or it might be a larger team where different departments can fill in for things like legal or software development. So we tried to spend a lot of space in the guide talking about this and the local government use case for getting this past your superiors.
Thank you, Matt. I think that brings us to the end of the webinar. We would just like to take this opportunity to thank everyone for joining us wherever you are. This has been quite a comprehensive webinar, and all the resources will be shared so that you can go through all of them at your own pace. Thank you for joining us, and you can access the guide and ratings at the URL on the screen and the QR code that was also on the screen. And we'll be sending more information and slides and recording of this event by email. So thank you, everyone, and goodbye.